that one player that you want to win that one game? I know it's a hypothetical question that everybody asks, but I'm asking again anyway. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also happen to offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates, and I hope you'll check those out as well. The day after the Florida Panthers became Stanley Cup champions for the first time, there sure was a lot of talk about the Edmonton Oilers, the team that did not become champions. Why? Well, a couple reasons. One, Connor McDavid was named Conn Smythe Trophy winner. To the consternation of some, I really don't care that much. I'd rather see it go to somebody from the winning team. But I'll also tell you that I've seen situations where I've liked it going to a member of the losing team because it's an individual award. You know, it's player, singular. Really shouldn't matter, technically, which team the player's on. Then there was, well, I'm trying to figure out the right way to word this. I think it was a reverse fuss on social media. A lot of people became indignant over the idea that people would complain that McDavid didn't come back onto the ice to be presented with the Conn Smythe Trophy. And then the indignation grew even louder, and more people were upset that anyone would be upset about McDavid not coming back out. Well, nobody was actually complaining about this. I couldn't find it anywhere. Could not find the tiniest trace of this alleged anger over McDavid not coming out. Who thought he was going to come out? Nobody. Who complained about it? Nobody. But this is classic social media. It's literal manufactured faux outrage. So we'll skip that one. But here's one that I thought was a valid conversation that was occurring, and that was, to what extent do you weigh the Stanley Cup final versus the entirety of the Stanley Cup playoffs? And as everybody heard Gary Bettman say before he announced the trophy, as if he was like almost apologizing for it in advance before mentioning McDavid's name, it's an award based on the entirety of the playoffs, and that does make it different than other sports. There's a Super Bowl MVP. There's a World Series MVP. There's an NBA Finals MVP. Only in the NHL do they award that trophy, the playoff MVP, based on all four rounds. So I guess theoretically, if you had a team that was eliminated after one round, but somebody scored like 100 points in 7 games, they could win the Conn Smythe. Nothing would stop that in the rules. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. To me, and I've voted for Conn Smythe twice now, obviously in 2016 and 2017, covering both of those finals, and the regulations and the things you're supposed to consider were all explained to all of us. In both years, I voted for Sidney Crosby, even though there were certain different players over certain different rounds that could have convinced me to go a different direction. But Sid was, in my eyes, the best player overall that they had in each of those 2 playoff runs. But I'm going to be honest with you. If Sid didn't have, a really, really good final in 2016 or a really, really good final in 2017, I would have given some thought, harder thought, to somebody else. Chris Letang, I thought was absolutely fabulous in the 2016 final, and never more so than in Game 6 out in San Jose. In 2017, you had epic goaltending performances by both Marc-Andre Fleury and then by Matt Murray. Phil Kessel and the HBK guys. And as long as I'm flicking names around here, Patrick Hornqvist wins the thing. Justin Schultz stepped up into a number one defense role with Letang out. A lot of different ways. Still went with Sid. Why? Because Sid was always there. And why was he always there? Because that's just what Sid does when there's winning on the line. That's what he's always done, and he's done it arguably as well as any player in the history of the game. In this final, just now, McDavid had monster outputs in games 4 and 5. Wasn't visible at all in 1 through 3. Really wasn't that visible in 6 or 7. And in those last 2, he had a total of 0 goals and 2 shots. He didn't elevate anybody around him. He didn't pick up Leon Draisaitl out of what ended up being a 9-game goalless slump to end the playoffs. And he didn't convert that spectacular chance there near the end of Game 7. You know the one I'm talking about. Yes, Gustav Forsling had the stick check of the ages by coming in there and tying him up. And Eetu Luostarinen, with the great sliding move, prevented any kind of rebound from hurting Florida. But, there it was. The game was on his blade, just like we saw earlier in the playoffs, and it didn't go in. Tell me, please, that you're at least a little bit like me and you wondered, would Sid have put that in? And I'm not talking about Sid from 7, 10, 12 years ago. I'm talking about Sid right now, like Sid off of his couch, showing up to play Game 7. Would Sid have put that puck in? I don't have an answer as to who would be the actual best player to play in one game. I'm sure a lot of that would have to do with your systems, your intangibles in your locker room, the way you prefer to approach things, the kind of wingers you got, and all this other stuff. But I know who I'm taking. And it's the guy who's got more medals and rings than he could carry around if he wanted to. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Tom, who asks, DK, I'm a little surprised by the trade return that some of these goalies have gotten of late. Do you think Tristan Jarry gets dealt? First thing I have to say to you, Tom, is that there was a non-report report yesterday morning as part of Canadian guy Elliot Friedman's 32 Thoughts that a lot of people pay attention to. The problem with that is that if you listen very carefully to Friedman's wording, he will express opinions that people will interpret as reporting. He will say, for example, as he did in this case, it wouldn't surprise me if Jarry was being shopped for a trade after Alex Nedeljkovic was signed to a 2-year contract. Well, people hear that and they go, whoa, it was Friedman who said that, and they get all fired up about it, and nobody's listening to the actual language that he uses. He's really, really good at it. By that, I'm talking about the language. He does it on live TV when he's on the air in Canada, and everybody's sitting around the table going, whoa. And if you can tell, that kind of bugs me a little bit because that's not reporting. And Friedman is capable, more than capable, of reporting. Without making this a whole discussion about one Canadian reporter, I can tell you from having done similar features in the past myself that it's really tough to fill 32 of anything. And there are now 32 different teams in the NHL, which is why he has the number that he has attached to this feature. So I'm picturing poor Elliot getting to like 17 or 18, and some of it's based on actual conversations with executives or agents or whatever. And then he's just going, oh my God, Pittsburgh. I don't have anything out of Pittsburgh. What am I going to do with Pittsburgh? What did they do this week? All right, well, they signed Nedeljkovic. Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if ... You following me now on this? All right. So I don't even know if you're asking in regards to that or if you're just asking in general. My information from the Penguins, and it's not an opinion, my information is that Jarry is not on the block. My information is that Jarry is going to be one of the 2 goaltenders starting the season for the Penguins Nedeljkovic will obviously be part of that tandem, and Joel Blomqvist will be given another chance to grow at the AHL level in Wilkes-Barre. As I said last week, when the Nedeljkovic deal was done, I'm kind of okay with that. If you go over, and this is a point that Kyle Dubas has made himself, including after the season, the metrics of what these two did together, the save percentage that they put up collectively, the consistency that they showed, they actually were pretty good as a tandem. And in the modern NHL, we don't have Eddie Johnston going out there for 80 games anymore. There are only a couple of true horses in the league, the Connor Hellebuck, Andrei Vasilevsky types that are out there for 60, 65 games or whatever. You need to have a tandem. You need to put together something along the lines of what the Bruins have enjoyed in having the best tandem in Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman before Ullmark was just traded to the Senators. So if you think of goaltending more in that spirit than in who's your number one and who's your number two, you're probably going to come closer to a mathematical modern reality about the position. That's how Dubas feels about this tandem. There's zero indication that Jari's being traded. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.